Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. This is an OSHA orientation. OSHA pretest. Before we talk more in depth about OSHA, we would like to know what you currently understand about OSHA. Please look through the folder and find the OSHA pretest. You will have 10 minutes to complete it. Don't worry about passing or failing. We will review all material in this presentation. OSHA topics. Introduction to OSHA. 1. What is OSHA? 2. Rights under OSHA. 3. What is a hazard? 4. How to control hazards. 5. Workers' rights. What is OSHA? The Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, OSHA Act, was passed to prevent workers from being killed or seriously harmed at work. The law requires employers to provide their employees with working conditions that are free of known dangers. The Act created the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, which sets and enforces protective workplace safety and health standards. OSHA also provides information, training, and assistance to workers and employees. Employers. Workers may file a complaint to have OSHA inspect their workplace if they believe that their employer is not following OSHA's standards or that there are serious hazards. Safety first. You have the right to a safe workplace. Workers' rights under OSHA. To help assure a safe and helpful workplace, OSHA provides workers with the right to ask OSHA to inspect their workplace, use their rights under the law without retaliation or discrimination, receive information and training about hazards, methods to prevent harm, and the OSHA standards that apply to their workplace. The training must be in a language you can understand. Get copies of test results done to find hazards in the workplace. Review records of work-related injuries or illnesses. Get copies of their medical records. Employer responsibilities. Employers have the responsibility to provide a safe workplace. Employers must provide their employees with a workplace that does not have serious hazards and allows all relevant OSHA safety and health standards. Employers must find and correct safety and health problems. OSHA further requires employers to try to eliminate or reduce hazards first by making changes in working conditions rather than just relying on masks, gloves, earplugs, or other types of personal protective equipment, PPE. Employers must also inform employees about hazards through training, labels, alarms, color code systems, chemical information sheets, or other methods. Keep accurate records of work-related injuries and illnesses. Perform tests in the workplace, such as air sampling, required by some OSHA standards. Provide hearing exams or other medical tests required by OSHA standards. Post OSHA citations, injuries, and illness data, and the OSHA poster in the workplace where workers will see them. Notify OSHA within 8 hours of a workplace incident in which there is a death or when 3 or more workers go to the hospital. Not discriminate or retaliate against a worker for using their rights under the law. Health and safety hazards. Safety hazards cause physical injuries and accidents, cause immediate harm. Examples: broken bones, cuts, bruises, strains, or electrocution. Health hazards cause internal injuries like diseases or illnesses. Cause long-term harm, may take years to develop. Example, cancer, heart disease, loss of hearing, or reproductive problems. Pair and share activity. 5 minutes. Think of your personal experience with health or safety hazards at your current or past workplace. Find a partner to share your experiences. We will discuss those experiences as a whole group. Together, complete health and safety hazards document. Types of hazards fact sheets. In your folder, you will find an extensive list of various types of hazards. Please use this as a reference. Risk mapping of a warehouse store. Risk mapping is a method that employees use to identify hazards by drawing a layout of the workplace. Please find the handout in your folder. In groups of 3 to 4 people, label the various hazards that you see in this warehouse. Physical/safety hazards, biological/chemical hazard, other hazards. Reducing hazards. Employers must keep the workplace safe for workers. There are different ways they can do this. Some ways work better than other ways. How to reduce hazards handout. More effective, best, to least effective, worst. Elimination of hazards. Substitution. Engineering. Labor practices/administrative controls, training and procedures. Personal protective equipment, PPE. Top 2 controls. Elimination. The best way to control a hazard is to eliminate it entirely. It is best to do this as early as possible. Example, use an electric forklift truck rather than a gas-operated forklift truck to eliminate carbon monoxide in a warehouse. Substitution. When a hazard cannot be eliminated completely, the second best alternative is substituting the dangerous condition. The idea is to substitute chemical equipment or hazardous materials with ones that are less hazardous. Example, using paint that does not contain lead-based pigments. More controls, but not as effective. Engineering controls. Engineering control is another way that technology can be used to change the work environment, a machine or some equipment in order to reduce the hazards. Examples, machine guards, backup alarms, guardrails, covers, slip-resistant surfaces, and using machines to move heavy objects instead of carrying them. Administrative controls or changing labor practices means changing the way, the structure, or how work is done. Example, instead of employees exposed to particular hazard for 8 hours a day, the employer could assign 4 workers to work 2 hours each. This could be used for repetitive tasks or for an exposure to a chemical hazard. Least effective, PPE, personal protective equipment, PPE. This is equipment or clothing to protect the worker, such as respirators, eye goggles, gloves, knee pads, hard hats, steel-toed boots, harnesses. What legal rights do workers have to a safe job? 1. Workers in the U.S. have a legal right to a safe and healthy job. True or false? If you are an immigrant, you are not protected by any workplace safety laws. True or false? What legal rights do workers have to a safe job? 3. Legally, who is responsible for providing a safe and healthy workplace? The employer, the workers, the union, OSHA, or all of the above? What legal rights do workers have to a safe job? 4. Workers can call in the government to inspect a workplace for hazards. True or false? 5. When workers call OSHA to request an inspection of the workplace, they don't have to tell their name. True or false? Government inspectors must always tell the employer before they come to inspect the workplace. True or false? Number 7. Workers have the legal rights to refuse to do unsafe or unhelpful job tasks. True or false? Number 8. Workers have the right to know about chemicals they work with, and employers must train employees how to work safely with chemicals. True or false? Number 9. Workers can be fired if they request a safety inspection from the government, and there is nothing that can be done about it. True or false? 2 main points to keep in mind. 1. OSHA gives employees the right to complain about an unsafe working environment. But in the real world, it is more effective and protective to complain as a group. Why? Because it affects one person, it most likely affects many people. Because a group complaint gets more attention. 2 main points to keep in mind, continued. If an employee is fearful, afraid of getting fired, there are organizations called workers' centers that can represent him or her anonymously. Unions can also represent employees. Taking action on unsafe working conditions. There are local grassroots organizations, workers' centers, advocates for workers' rights on many employment issues, including wage theft, wage and hour violations, and worker health and safety. They can file OSHA complaints on workers' behalf and make referrals to workers' compensation lawyers. Local workers' centers. There are addresses and contact information listed on this slide. Contact OSHA if you have a question or want to file a complaint. They will keep your information confidential. They are here to help you. OSHA contact information is located below on this slide. OSHA topics covered. What is OSHA? Rights under OSHA. What is a hazard? How to control hazards. Workers' rights. Any questions? OSHA post-test and presentation evaluation. Now that we have covered the various topics of OSHA, we would like to know how much you understood. We would also like to know your opinion about our presentation. This data will help us improve our future sessions. Thank you for your cooperation. This completes the basic OSHA orientation.